Thor: Love and Thunder is a giant turd of a mess. It's directed by Taika Waititi, who directed Thor: Ragnarok, which I liked, but this I did not. Why? Because this movie was trying to be too funny for its own good, to the point where it almost feels like they're disrespecting the comics. I don't hate this movie, and although I wasn't a fan of most of the comedy here, mainly because I've been so used to it from Marvel over the past decade now, I had no real anticipation for Love and Thunder, in spite of my enjoyment for Ragnarok, which was a massive improvement over the previous two Thor movies. The character Thor had some serious changes to his personality in the MCU. He started out as a rather serious and epic god featuring brutish and ancient masculine traits, but as the general tone of Marvel grew more and more comical, Thor's persona also changed to a more laid-back, foolish and kind of dumb version of the mighty Norse god, which is fine, but in Love and Thunder they really push the limit. Even kids don't take him seriously in this one. The movie opens with the most positive aspect. Gore the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, vows to kill all gods after his own god failed to save his daughter and his people. It was an incredibly interesting theme to explore about the faith in one's god, but after the scene ends we cut to a completely different tone that just doesn't fit Gore's persona. The director said he wanted to make this movie feel like an 80s romantic adventure similar to Flash Gordon. That made me think, why on earth would you want to make something deliberately bad? Don't set your bar to a low standard. Be ambitious. In fairness to Marvel, they have been quite ambitious in making more movies surrounding obscure and unknown superheroes, but at the same time, with all these TV shows and movies being released on Marvel, I just wonder, maybe it would have been better if they ended the whole franchise at Avengers Endgame. Because this Phase 4 has just been a complete mess. Spider-Man No Way Home has been the only decent movie in the phase. The rest have been garbage, and that's an understatement. The only comedy in Love and Thunder that actually worked were the Screaming Goats. The Screaming Goats and Gore were the best parts of the movie and deserved far more screen time. They also bring back Jane Foster, who has stage 4 cancer. This was a strange plot to add to a very cheesy and lampoonish story. The balance was all over the place. I was trying hard not to cringe at points, something I've done in previous Marvel movies, so I was already prepared for it. Anyway, Jane looks for ways to cure her cancer, and after seeking help from Thor's old and broken hammer, Mjolnir, she becomes the mighty Thor, and thus sparks the romantic adventure that was so promised by the director. Their love was shown in a very rom-com kind of way that just wasn't funny at all. It just felt so flimsy and corny when you compare it to the serious aspects of the movie. Like I said, I didn't hate this version of Thor, but it was incredibly frustrating and a huge waste of potential when you consider the talent involved behind this project. There's about 5 Oscar winners here, and this is the best they could do. And I completely get why people hate this movie, because it was such an obnoxious tone. The direction feels loose with no real purpose. Thor is clearly lost after losing his loved ones in the past movies, and they show that he's searching for closure in this one. But then he just makes stupid remarks and acts like a buffoon when it seemed like they were going to explore his character in further detail about his purpose as a god, and how this would conflict with Gore the God Butcher. Instead, we just got a steaming pile of crap jokes that fly right over your head. Sure, I laughed a few times, but this movie isn't just a comedy. It has a very serious theme to the movie about faith, which is just wasted. The kids are a terrible addition to the story. They were boring and extremely terrible in their performances. It just kind of came out of nowhere until the second act. It felt rushed and reminded me a lot of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, when the children show up and ruin the movie, just like this one. I mean, no one cares about Heimdall's son. Now, a lot of people have complained about the CGI in this movie. Yeah, there are parts that don't look good, but that's not new for a Marvel film. I feel like the effects in this movie have been given a bad rap because the quality of this movie is not so great. But even in something as well loved as Spider-Man No Way Home or Avengers Endgame, the effects aren't particularly great there either. They're solid for the most part, but there's some distinct aspects that really did not age well. If anyone should be blamed for this, it shouldn't be the VFX artists, but the producers. VFX artists have worked overtime constantly while still getting underpaid and given unreasonable deadlines to complete the work in time for the release. The producers are completely at fault here. All in all, Thor: Love and Thunder is just another below average film by Marvel. It really marks a question where Phase 4 is heading, because so far, just like this movie, it's a waste of time.